they'll lead you far astray. First of all, they're very difficult to obtain. You have to meditate and do all kinds of yogic processes for a long, long time. And then, during that time, you're not doing devotional service. You're not worshiping God. You're not developing transcendental love. You're developing some material qualities. Yes, they're subtle, and it's probably better than trying to get material wealth and things like that are so gross and very, very temporary. But they're still temporary. They're still conditional. They're still part of the material world. So the attainment of mystic powers is not really desirable. And if you get caught up in that, it becomes an anartha that will stop you from attaining pure devotional service. And then finally, the last Asat-tṛṣṇā, Anarthas, is the desire for mukti. Mukti means liberation. Liberation as a material desire. In this world, we're suffering. And there's three kinds of suffering. Suffering caused by ourself, suffering caused by other living entities, and suffering caused simply by the modes of nature. So these three kinds of suffering are always bothering us. We're always having to go through different trials and tribulations in this material world. So then we try to say, okay, how can I escape these sufferings? Well, I may be able to stop causing myself suffering if I get some knowledge. I may be able to escape from other living entities and go off by myself somewhere, and then they won't cause me any problem. But I can never stop just the modes of material nature from causing me suffering. I can never stop the action of time from causing me suffering. So maybe I should just get out of this material world altogether. And this is the urge for mukti. Selfish desire. I want to stop my suffering. I want to solve my problem. I want to be happy. You see? So we envision a form of liberation where we cease to exist in this material world and we go into some state of spiritual existence. And usually this is impersonal, meaning we give up our identity as an individual spirit soul and merge into the effulgence of the Lord, the Brahma-jyoti. That Brahma-jyoti is the bodily glow, the bodily effulgence of the Supreme Lord. And this is also known as Brahman. Brahman, or Brahma, is different from Brahma, which is illusion, which is what we were talking about a little bit earlier, 4 different kinds of illusion. Brahma. But Brahma is spiritual energy, oneness. So if we merge into oneness and we lose our spiritual identity, well, guess what happens? We lose our individuality and we even lose our consciousness. Because consciousness requires that there be 3 objects, 3 factors. The subject, meaning us, ourselves. The object, meaning that which we direct our consciousness towards. And the relationship. The subject and the object always have some relationship. They're never just neutral. I am a conscious living entity. I have consciousness. But that consciousness has to direct towards something. It has to reflect off of something for me to be conscious. And so what is the relationship between me and the object of my consciousness? Well, I'm the subject, and the object is the object. You see? Subject-object relationship. So without these 3 factors, we cannot have consciousness. Let's say I'm a conscious living entity, but my consciousness is not directed towards any object. Then what am I going to be conscious of? Or let's say there is myself, the subject, and there's some object that I could be conscious of, but we don't have a relationship. So then I can't be conscious either. Or let's say there's a relationship and there's an object, but there's no subject. Well, then there's no consciousness there either. All three of these things are required for consciousness. So if we go into the Brahman and we merge into oneness, and there's no longer duality or differences between me and anything else, I can't be conscious. The conditions, the ground necessary for consciousness cannot exist in those conditions. That means I lose consciousness. I become unconscious, even though I am merging into the supreme consciousness. If the supreme consciousness exists, but I don't exist anymore because I'm not any different from it, then I can't be conscious, you see? And I can't be superconscious either because there's no I anymore. There's no self anymore. One loses one's individuality. Now, this mukti is the equivalent of spiritual suicide. It means that one ceases to exist. One ceases to be conscious. And if we are unconscious, even if we still exist, we don't know it, so what difference does it make? I mean, yes, you can say that, yeah, we got beyond suffering. Yeah, well, we got beyond everything in the process. Threw the baby out with the bathwater, huh? So this mukti, this is not very desirable. In fact, it's very undesirable, just in the same way that ordinary suicide is undesirable. The spiritual suicide is even more undesirable because it's eternal. It's permanent. If someone commits suicide, yes, it's very sinful and they go to some hellish destination in the next life. But after being punished for their sinful activities, then they at least come back again into the human form of life. But this mukti is permanent. You don't come back from mukti. That's it, forever. Bye. So we do not consider mukti an acceptable spiritual destination. Now the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, they think this is great. Oh yeah, mukti, I'm going to merge into oneness of everything and disappear. You see, well, this is the same kind of thinking that drives people who commit suicide. I'm just going to end it all. It'll be over. No more suffering. Suffering is so bad, I can't stand it anymore. So I'll just stop it. It doesn't matter if I destroy myself in the process. At least I stop the pain. But it doesn't really stop the pain. That's the thing. See? And mukti is just, I mean, it's 1,000 times worse than ordinary suicide. Because it can't be undone. It's the end. Permanent. Period. Finished. Eternally. So be very careful of mukti. Mukti is a very poisonous thing, and the people who preach mukti are also against the conclusions of the Vedas. The Vedas don't recommend mukti at all, unless we accept one of the other kinds of mukti, which allows us to continue our devotional service to the Lord. They are going to the spiritual world, living in the spiritual planets, accepting the same kind of a spiritual body as the Lord, accepting the same spiritual opulences as the Lord, and living in a place where the Lord has his eternal form and pastimes. But these four kinds of mukti are acceptable provided that our situation allows us to continue our devotional service afterwards. Yeah, please move over so I can see the fire. I like to look at the fire. It's pleasant. So these four kinds of mukti, which permit the continuation of our devotional service, are acceptable provided that we are engaged in devotional service and not just trying to enjoy And of course, once again, as always, the difference is in the intention. If I want mukti, if I want liberation from the material world so that I can go and be with Krishna all the time, then that's very nice. If I want liberation from the material world for my sense gratification, for my enjoyment, that's not very nice. That's childlike. Because devotional service or giving love to Krishna especially is far better than getting love for ourselves. See, giving pleasure is far higher than getting pleasure. If we give pleasure, that means that we are aware or have realized our position as spirit soul, that we're eternal, that nothing can hurt us, nothing can kill us. You see? So we should desire this position of giving.